Now we need to understand the why before the how. Okay, that's a critical thing in leadership when we're looking at the big picture. Constant recruitment is not the actual goal. We need the recruit, that's true, and we need to do it year round. But we need to think about the why, the actual program. If you thought about it, all of the scouts, Cub Scouts, or whether it's in a troop or a crew, if you could keep all the ones you've recruited, if you keep them all in a unit, you wouldn't have a recruitment problem. You'd have a huge unit that could continue to service the community and help scouts achieve. Now, it is important to keep your flyers and your information for your unit current. You need to keep those things going. You need a recruitment team. That team needs to be actively involved, bringing in new scouts into the program. That helps the unit. Don't give up on that. But think about, once they're there, how do you retain them? How do you create a unit, whether it be a pack, a troop, or a crew, regardless, how do you keep them involved? That's the big point. Trying to make sure your group is set up so that you have your den leaders and your cub master, if you're in a pack, your troop and your assistant, scout masters, and your committee and everything, and all the different teams. Trying to keep all that in line is critical. But you also have to think about the big picture of program. And one of the big things there is the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Those two core elements are the reason we're here. They're the reason scouting exists. Those are core values that need to be part of everything your unit does. And that's a huge answer to the why. So how do we go about doing that? Is a very intense program. Having a program that scouts cannot leave. They don't want to leave. They want to stay as long as they possibly can in that unit. There are packs that are a blast. Every time you go to that meeting, those kids have a great time. That's very important to have that element as part of your program. Same thing is true with a troop. A troop has incredible adventures planned. They have all these things going on. As long as the why, Scout Oath, Scout Law, as long as that's addressed, everything else kind of falls into the program. That's the big thing. That's going to help you do the big retention of all that work you did to recruit them. Visible outdoor program should not be overlooked. You have to keep the program exciting. They didn't join for boring meetings. Nobody joined scouting for that. They joined for adventure. That's the whole point. If you can keep that as the core of learning and all the different elements coming together, keeping that in mind as far as the actual program, if you can keep that going, that's a good idea. Hikes, canoe trips, campouts, those are exciting adventures, okay? Even in Cub Scouts, when they were recruited, they were told about archery and BB gun and all the other things, that target sports and camping in a tent. That's adventurous. They don't get that anywhere else. Keep that alive. Don't kill it in boring meetings. Using the youth leadership within a troop is important for all of the patrol leaders that are involved, whether it be the senior patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader, the actual patrol leader, and their assistant. So those leaders need to be actively involved in the meeting planning adventure. That's the key. If they're active and they're involved, that is critical to the success. Also, if you're in a Cub Scout pack, the den needs to be exposed to all of these wonderful adventures. It's not just crafts all the time. It's not just being active in different things. Getting ready for an adventure is huge. Check with your district, your council will have Cub Scout events where they can go and do the things they were promised when they were recruited. And this will get more and more excitement about the program. Now, a big factor to retention is retaining the adults. The youth will be retained through the program, through adventure. That is a natural. Poor communications can drive away parents and youth. It is important that everything that's communicated, that's coming up, should be written down. It's simple flyers, some kind of handout, even electronic if they do texting or they do email, or there's many ways to convey the written information that's being communicated. Communication is critical. If they're confused, if they don't know what's going on, and they can't answer questions at home without having to call someone, that's a problem. It's very important that there's a constant communication. That keeps everybody engaged. Burned out leaders can really disrupt a unit, and it's the quickest way to get adults to give up. That's very important to recognize. You need to see those signs. Everyone should have less than 2 hats to wear at a meeting, or just one type of position. That is so important. They can't do everything. That's the fastest way to really make your unit kind of implode, because there's only a few people doing it, and when they drop the ball, and believe me, they don't mean to, but they will, when they do, it can really affect retention of the scouts. And the parents will see that, and they're out of there. Okay? They can't do that. It's so important to get them to be engaged. Get them involved. Have them buy in and start joining the teams, the many teams that are in a unit. It can be very, very good for everyone involved, and exciting too. Now, you have to set realistic expectations for all of the parents. The new parents that have come into your unit don't need to be deluged with everything. If they were in a pack and they cross over to a troop with their youth, of course, that's something that happens all the time. You may take them aside and say, look, you've graduated, your Cub Scout is now a Scout, and take some time off, step back, be that parent, and find out where you would fit in with the actual troop. So just tell them, hey, you don't have to join in and be gung-ho right away. We love that, but maybe just step back and let your Cub Scout become a real Scout in a troop. Age-appropriate programming is critical to long-term growth. This is something that gets the Scouts involved in something that they're directly interested in. For instance, in Cub Scouts, the Cub Scout just joining wants fun. They want to do stuff. They might want to put together a rocket to do the Rocket Day event, adventure. That's something that they need to do right away, and it needs to be done in a fun environment where they are having a blast, okay, a good time with their peers. It is so important for that character building process to begin with fun. Adventure is what they're there for. That's what got them there. So getting ready for that adventure, but having fun right away is the important part. Now, in a troop or crew even, they need challenges. They need some kind of issue that they can address, something that they can do, that they can actually provide information towards a successful resolution. So that's something that comes in right out the beginning. They want that as soon as possible. That could be as simple as making a decision on a patrol flag or a patrol cheer. That's something that in a troop happens quite often with new scouts. They need those challenges to come up with something fun and a challenge. This is something that's really important for them. And out of that becomes leadership. That is so critical to that success. You need to have that going on. These are all age appropriate to build that program towards the goal of adventure. Now, in venture scouting in a crew, they have those very similar things, but they need something more. They need that connection to older, young adults. That's the thing about a crew. They start at 14. Okay, so there's still teenagers in there, but they need to have those challenges be met up with more responsibility, bigger challenges and adventure. That's the thing. They might be getting ready to go on a huge hike in New Mexico. They might be going overseas to Ireland for a big camp out. Okay. They do big things, okay? They don't do it every week, but they get ready. It takes time. And in that, they get the social groups start developing within that crew. And they become more and more leaders. It is a leadership thing that it can be very involved. Now, misaligning the programs, okay? This happens. You have a Cub Scout group that does a lot of activities. They have rocket days and they go camping with mom and dad and they do a lot of neat stuff. Then you have a troop that doesn't do anything but go into meetings, okay? There's a huge difference. That's the thing. You need to make sure that it matches up. We even tell Arrow of Lights to go out and shop different troops. Not all troops are the same. So there's some troops that are focused on different aspects. A lot of them have outdoor in mind because an outdoor program is critical to a lot of the leadership things that happen in scouting. But they might mix it with more stuff that the Cub Scout would be interested in. So that's a perfect match for that Cub Scout to go into that unit. So you need to have that level. One of the best things you can do, if you have an Arrow of Light den and they're getting ready to cross over to a troop, it might be the troop that normally all of the Cub Scouts go to. They might do that on a regular basis. They might it's inherent. Troop 123 goes to pack, or pack 123 goes to troop 123. That might be just the tradition. But it's okay for the scout to choose a different one. It just has to be more of a match for them. And the same thing's true with the parents. Parents also do that. But the best thing to put in there is a den chief. Den chief should be, first of all, your troop needs to be assigning capable young people that are like first class or above to go into the pack and make sure that you start from your Arrow of Lights that are going to be going to your troop. You start from there and then you go Weeblos and then so on. You go all the way down to all the dens. It's impossible to emphasize that more. It is so critical that they start that way so that they can recruit those scouts, get them ready to go into the troop so that that match is there. That's the thing. You don't want them to have that mismatch. They're not going to stay. Now, if your troop is doing it right, you have all your first year scouts going into a first year emphasis patrol, okay, which has a full structure and a troop guide that was a den chief, okay? It may not be the same den chief, but the troop guide. And there might be more than one, so that's totally fine. It depends on your troop. this guide is there to make sure that the patrol starts to get the hang of things, and is there to mentor your patrol leader and assistant patrol leader so that they can take over and really run the patrol. Get that cheer going, get a lot of the patrol functions going, the patrol flag, and all of the things that patrols do. Patrol and scout spirit. That's a big thing that guide does. And it's important to have that in the troop. Now, after about a year, the scoutmaster has had a chance to go through all of those scouts and talk to them multiple times so that they know what patrol to put them in. Okay? And then they sort them out. That is a huge thing to make sure that they get the attention that they need, brand new, so that they can get into the patrols of their choice. They want to make sure that that happens. That's a good way to keep scouts going into those patrols. And as long as you've got that adventure in mind and you're working towards that goal, you're going to retain them. That's the wonderful thing. If you can keep them involved, keep them looking at that adventure. Even after that adventure, they're not going to just scatter. You want to keep going with that. Growing at the right pace. This is something that a lot of scout leaders really don't think about. A slow growth over time and retaining everyone that you've recruited is the best path to success. A big unit is not a sign of being successful. It might be a sign of persistence, actually doing the school nights and actually going out and recruiting all year long. That might be the way to do it. But more than that, it's retaining the ones you did sign up and the ones you have signed up from the past. You got to keep them all involved. It's very important for that growth. A big night of, say, 25, 30 scouts going into your unit, that can be an immense stress. Now you've got 2 more patrols. Now you have more tents that you have to buy, more canoes if you have canoes for them. All the equipment, all of the leadership, okay, it can be very stressful. So slow growth over time is far more maintainable. It's possible, okay? If you're only getting a few scouts every recruitment, that's fine. But if you can keep those scouts, it's even better. You don't have to recruit them again. It's funny. I've actually been at recruitment nights where the kid was signing up for the 3rd time to a Cub Scout pack. Same pack, but every time he just would fade away. Always keep this in mind, that retention and growth in a unit is completely dependent on the program. As long as the program has an adventure, a goal, that is very important to keep that in mind. It will keep the unit moving forward. The retention will be just natural. They don't want to leave. You've made it. They just have to. They got to do it. They got to go and do that big adventure. That's the thing. That's how you retain them. Sometimes. But one of the things I've always thought about, I thought, when scouts joined, they joined for a reason, okay? They joined for the adventure. They wanted to go outdoors. They wanted to do things. That's why they got involved. But if they're spending 40 weeks a year in boring meetings, that's not going to fulfill anything if you only camp once a year. So, we need to spend more time under the stars and less time in that meeting room. Do not be afraid of putting the out in Scout, because that's what we are about. We're about an outdoor program. And if your scouting program is more about hiking and backpacking and camping and canoeing and all the outdoor activities, than clipboards and whiteboards and meeting rooms. Okay, you got to think about that. How does that affect our youth? Now, to define camping, we have to ask our question, the big question, and that is, are we, as a outdoor activity oriented organization, are we doing it enough? Are we going outdoors? Are we camping enough? And the big thing is that every month should have some kind of activity outdoors. I also recommend that the youth meetings don't always have to be indoors. If it's a beautiful evening or an afternoon when you're having your meeting, have it outside. It's totally fine. Almost every youth meeting can be done in an outdoor situation. There doesn't have to be a stage with a microphone and a spotlight and all that stuff. Go outdoors. Put the out in Scout at that moment with the youth meetings. Plan it. Make sure that you're doing something outdoors every single month. Now, I know of troops that actually set the goal to go camping once a month. That's 12 camping trips a year. That's a lot of camping. They include their summer camp. So it's more 11, than 12. So that's the that's the thing about camping. That's a worthy goal. Now, the percentage of your program should be outdoors. Okay. Now, outdoors could be a trip to some place like a church or something that you would stay in. It could be a campsite where they have cabins. It's not always a tent. It should be an adventure. Okay, there's a lot of that going on throughout every unit in the nation. They need to think about all the different activities they can do. There's places on the east coast of the United States, and even on the west coast, where they have battleships, where the scout troop can actually stay inside the battleship overnight. So that's a great outing. So these are things that happen that really puts that out back into Scout. Now, the quality of programs throughout the country varies from council to council. It really depends. Some councils do many opportunities at their camp. Some don't because of weather or where they are in the country. So it really varies from area to area what kind of camping experience you can do locally. Traveling is fine. There's all kinds of ways to go to these different things, but you need to increase that percentage of outings, and in so doing, making sure that all of your procedures and your equipment and everything's good, and the youth are actually involved in that directly. Not everything can be an experience that's an outdoor experience. Not 11 or 12 times a year are you hanging off the side of a mountain, or in the wilderness or any of that stuff. It can vary. You have to move it around. You have to keep it fresh. As adult leaders, this is something we need to talk to our youth leadership that are actually deciding that schedule, right? We need to inform them, says, hey, there's this new thing going on over here. They may want to do that. They may want to go to a battle reenactment. They may want to go to a battleship. They may want to do things that are not necessarily camping, but you can combine those. I live in South Florida. I know of troops that actually go to the big pirate parade in St. Augustine, okay? And they do it every year. And they do the ghost tours and all that stuff. But they camp just outside of St. Augustine, and they come into the town for the day. These are huge things to see that fort and to see all the history and everything going on. Wonderful. So there's things like that throughout the entire country. In your area, there are things that they can do. Motivate your youth to put that on the calendar. That's a real critical thing. Now, there is a drift of going from outdoors to indoor only. So that does happen with a lot of troops, a lot of crew. It's important that we understand that there's things they need to do, they want to do. Scouting is not just a boring youth meeting, okay? That's the thing that gets you towards the goal of doing those adventures. That's the key. You have to think of it in that term. And with that, there's a lot of activities they need to do. And the calendar is difficult. When you're dealing with youth, it's important to keep this in mind. It's important to keep their schedule. They've got school, they've got other things, different holidays and different things. So you have to work that calendar so that all these adventures are addressed. The meetings, the youth meetings, are preparing towards those activities. That's the key. Now, from an adult leadership perspective, a lot of the drift from being an outdoor program into an indoor only, a lot of that drift has to do with mechanics of the unit. There's not enough adult leaders to really facilitate transporting scouts to camp. There's not enough of the logistics there for the equipment or for the trained leaders to go with them. Those are things that kind of stump you back, and you gotta make sure that you do your training. Earn that train strip on your uniform every single meeting, okay? Make sure that you've earned to wear that train strip. Make sure you do your online training. Make sure you do your ILS or go to Woodbedge or get the training, okay? Your scouts need that. Your leaders need that so that they can be that trained leader to help facilitate the scouts and motivate them and mentor them and coach them towards achieving goals that they've set. Meanwhile, you have leaders who are caught up in the paperwork and logistics of the committee and all this other stuff. Let's try to focus into our cores of what we do as scouts, okay, as scout leaders. Let's think about that. Paperwork's going to get done. The fundraising that's needed to support it, that should be something that goes on all the time. Paperwork is all the time. All these things kind of roll forward all the time. It's that focus, that narrowed focus of the scout-facing leaders that needs to help those youth achieve the goal of doing outdoor activities, going away from their meeting place. That's an important thing. Even if it's the back porch of the church, okay? To have their youth meeting, that's great. It is important that these things happen. The cost of not camping enough. Now, when I say camping, that's all activities away from your meeting space, okay? It could be sleepovers, it could be all kinds of things. So that's something to consider. But the ones that are most difficult, discomfort, wet, okay, a wet camp out, they can be big memories, big challenges for youth to really achieve on that. When I was a young person, if I got wet, that's not good, okay? If I was exposed to sunlight, I burned up. So there was some worries about that. Now I don't worry about it too much. I'm older and I've done more camping, so it's a different mindset. And I would never have that opportunity if I was cloistered away in some meeting room. And one of the hidden benefits that a lot of people overlook is unstructured time, what we call fellowship. That's something we do in scouting. It's where there's nobody teaching a course or, trying to get everybody to tie a knot or something. It's unstructured, sitting around a campfire or sitting around camp at summer camp. You could spend an hour, which is very valuable, with other scouts playing cards. These are the moments that come up that are so important to character development, to leadership, to understanding others. So critical. A lot of our young people, every single moment of their life is being programmed. Literally, every single thing, you're going to be transported here to there, blah, 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 blah. No wonder they're stuck on that phone. That's the thing. They need those opportunities where the phone is put away and they have to interact with their peers. It's something that they miss out if they don't have those opportunities. This is a very complex thing for a lot of scout leaders to kind of comprehend, but those situations where they're camping, in general, there's a possibility that they didn't prepare for something. Say, for instance, rain, okay? They didn't prepare ahead of time to have a plan B, okay? That's where your leadership comes involved. That's where that leadership starts stepping up. They won't have that opportunity if they're inside of a building in a conference room, okay? They're not going to have that. They have to be able to think on their feet. This is that opportunity. That's why camping is so important. And camping is a general term, but keep this in mind. They have to have that opportunity. If they don't get that opportunity, they'll never be able to learn all of the life lessons that we teach in scouting and how to put those into practice. Now, one of the things we talk about continuously is recruitment. The very important part about recruitment is retention. Scouts didn't join to be in a boring conference room every single week. That's something they did not sign on for. They wouldn't. They signed on for the adventure. They want to go camping. They want to go to camp where they can do the rifle range, or they can go to the archery range, or they can go swimming and sailing and all the high adventure things they joined for. If we do not fulfill that, our retention is going to go way down, because if you could keep every scout that you ever signed up, your troop, your pack would be enormous, right? Think about it. If you could keep every single one of them, they never want to leave. They want to stay in that pack forever. They want to stay in that troop as long as they possibly can, that crew, that Sea Scout ship. If you could do that, that solves the problem with constantly recruiting. Because when you're constantly recruiting and they're leaving, it's just as a leaky bucket. Another video. Hey, before we go any further, I want to personally invite you to come to the Campfire Chat. This is a live meeting. It happens on the first Sunday of each month, and it starts at 9 p.m. That's Eastern Time. And of course, I want to personally thank all of the members of the Patreon. They help support what we do here. In addition to that, we also have memberships available right here on this channel. Hit the join button and find out more information. There's a lot of nice little perks that you get for being a member and helping support what we do here. And one of those things is being recognized on our channel. So here's the list of all of the supporters of the channel. Now here's a reality check. If your parents or your chartered organization watched your unit for, say, 2 or 3 weeks, would they come to the conclusion that you're an outdoor activities group? If they would have a problem discerning that, then you need to think about including more outdoor activities. Now think about the largest block of time that you spend in a calendar year doing outdoor camping. For most troops, it would be summer camp. For most packs, it would be day camp. So those are things that are helped inside and out. Day camp is, and so is, of course, summer camp. Summer camp, you often eat in the dining hall. You often do activities in different areas. But you do swimming, and you have the outdoor rifle range and so on. So there's a lot of things that are done outdoors, but it's a mixture, okay? But think about that. If that's true for packs and that's true for troops, what about crew? If you're an adventure crew, what's your outdoor thing? Do you go to summer camp? You can. It's totally fine. If you're in a Sea Scout, if you're on a ship, do you go sailing for a week? That might be their big thing for every year. So there's a lot of things to think about as far as the outdoor program. All those adventures need to add up to a lot of days. That's the important bit. Now here's a scary thought. When's the last time rain didn't cancel your camping trip? If you see my meeting, it's changing that paradigm. Rain is okay. If there's flooding, no. if there's a tornado, no. If there's a hurricane, no. Okay. If there's a windstorm or other than just rain, a rainy weekend and everybody gets wet, that's okay. Okay. It's uncomfortable, but it's okay. Here's another big one. Is our staff, our leadership in the unit, are they trained to do outdoors? And if they're not trained, maybe they're avoiding the camping, okay? Or they just don't like doing camping. That's okay. There are people in your unit that don't want to go camping. They've had bad experiences or no experience in camping. They should be behind the scenes, okay? The youth want to do these adventures, so they need scout leaders that have gone through the training, that have actually the desire to go do these things. Now there are some barriers to doing an outdoor activity. Sometimes a troop may not have the funds or the leadership to do those activities. So it's important that we focus on the structure of that unit. Make sure that there's an adult leadership core that can go camping, that have been trained. That's a critical thing. That's kind of the horse before the cart. Okay, you got to have that. That's got to be there. In order to have those adventures. And the thing that really puts that together is that the unit has to have leadership that's available. Sometimes they can't spend a week at summer camp. They just can't. And you need at least 2 to go to summer camp. That's the thing. Otherwise, that youth are going to arrive there family-wise, not as a unit, and be provo, okay, if they don't have enough. And that costs a little more because there's people that are paid to be the 2D leadership at summer camp, okay? So it's a different world, so you have to have that in mind. Some people can't spend an entire week of their vacation time donated to the Scouts. They don't have it. There's a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, and they can't do that. If they're not working, they're not getting paid. That's just the way they have their economics. So we have to understand that. I'm not advocating that we pay adult or a volunteer leader to take a week and do that. What I'm saying is that we have to keep that in mind. That's a critical thing. There's a lot of adult leaders that will freely give up an entire week that they could spend with their family on a cruise. They'll give that up to go to summer camp. And parents need to be aware of that. They need to be grateful for that. That's a huge commitment. It's a huge thing they donate. So as a unit, we have to have that infrastructure in order to do any of the outdoor stuff. So we need to put the horse before the cart and make sure that our leadership is good and ready for that type of activity. Small activities. Start off slow, but you need to have small activities, adventures. An overnighter is a good example. If you're with a pack, overnighters are the only thing they do. They don't do the 2-day camping thing. The second day might be family camping. That's the thing about Cub Scouts versus a troop. Troop might take a whole weekend. If it's a special weekend where the Scouts are not at public school for that Friday or that following Monday, they could take a 3 or 4 day, depending on the holiday. They might have a segment of time there. So it might be in a winter break or a summer break or what have you. That's typically the scheduling for that. But keeping in mind, keep them small. Overnighters are fine. If you have 5 overnighters a week long at camp and then you do several campouts in a year, that's a lot of camping. That's a lot of outdoor activities, a lot of adventures that you can go on. So keep that part alive. The mindset can change where camping or adventures can be the norm versus all the youth meetings and all the stuff indoors. That's where you're getting more into the activities of scouting, and it's going to make scouting even more valuable to the youth that are participating. It's going to be incredible if you can put more scouting into that camp. Okay, now I reversed it there, but that you get my meaning. You need to be thinking outside the box as an adult leader. Think about it. If you can get that going, it's a great thing. Now, a scout troop can do micro adventures. For instance, instead of having the youth meeting at your charter, you could say, well, for that one night, the charter needs to use the facilities for something, so we're going to be meeting at the local putt-putt golf. That's perfectly fine to have that as a youth meeting. You have the putt-putt golf as the activity, but then you could talk about your next big adventure while you're at these micro adventures. That's the nice thing. You can build up to what you want to do. Now, redefining your outdoor schedule is important. It's not distance, okay? It is being active outdoors, whether it be a camp out, a camporee, all the different things that go on with your council in your area. There's a lot of different things you can be doing. That's the wonderful thing. So redefining that locally. You don't have to go hundreds of miles away and rent a bus and do all that stuff. That's a big adventure, maybe once a year, but all of it should be local, nearby, within your council. That's the key. Your council has a campsite. It's probably available most of the time you want to take the troop camping. Think about all the facilities they have. That's a major thing. Now here's some food for thought. Ask yourself, is scouting, your scouting unit, is it more of a scouting unit that occasionally goes outdoors, that occasionally does camping, or is it something that is an indoors only kind of thing? This is something to seriously think about. We need to put the out back into scouting, and you can do it. I know you can. So every single unit, all of them, every pack, troop, crew, ship, all of them, even explorers, okay? All of them All of them have disagreements. And how we handle that is super critical, because as adult leaders, we need to be able to handle any kind of conflict management. This is so critical to what we do in scouting. So today we're going to talk about a lot of the different realities to that. If you've been in scouting for some time, you know that there are some personalities. They may not work with you. There's certain people that just, it's very hard to live by the scout law, and being friendly, courteous, and kind is a challenge. So knowing that up front is setting you up for a much better results in any kind of conflict. Parenting skills can also be brought into this. A lot of parents are very, they've timed out every minute of the day for their scout, for their youth, their child. They've actually planned it all out, school and activities and lunch dates and all that. I mean, they've got it planned right down to the 5 minutes before they go to sleep. There's some parents like that. They can't let go. We'll talk about it. But that's a personality thing that comes into play in conflict management. Now, on the other end, you have parents that are almost laissez-faire. They don't, as it goes, they don't really plan anything. It just happens. That can be annoying too. So there's that dynamics that we need to think about. Now, everyone involved in a unit have different expectations of what's to go on, how scouting works, how the whole process of managing youth is done by youth in a troop. That's a foreign concept to a lot of people. So a lot of conflicts can come from that. How that works, the different dynamics between backstage, like committee, and scout facing, when you're dealing with the youth directly and mentoring them and helping them. These are things that occur, and there can be a lot of different problems, and we need to talk about it. Now, the most common source of conflict within a unit, there's 4 different groups, adult and adult. A lot of times you have a committee that's doing things that the scoutmaster may not want or need. There's that conflict, okay, and that has to be recognized. That can come up. Even though both of the scout leaders in this situation are equally trained, different points of view. So you have different styles of leadership. And that's where a conflict can occur. Advancement expectations. Now, that could be as simple as a parent not seeing the advancement happening immediately or being delayed in some way. There could be some argument there. It's a matter of communications. That's something that needs to be recognized. Now, that's true with parent and leader. So keeping that in mind, there are some things that they do that are a little different, such as the parent pushing advancement. Advancement is one of those important things. It's one of the methods of scouting, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure happens so that they can kind of achieve. But that can be very frustrating if you have a parent that is really pushing that along, and the scout is not doing what they need to do. So there could be some conflict there. Some parents are overly concerned about safety, about different things that go on within a troop. So it's important that that is addressed. Parents might be asking, why aren't my youth, my kids, getting those opportunities for leadership? Why are they not happening? That could be a huge conflict. Another level for disagreement could be youth and youth. Sometimes a patrol has issues and can't get along. Now, in that case, it's not they can't get along, it's they don't want to get along because of communications. That's the key. And from that, you have authority issues. The patrol leader makes a statement about how they want the tents and they don't want to do it. There's a lot of conflict that could come from that. And from that, you also have youth that have personality conflicts. They just bump heads. They don't get along. And the last one is really where the youth and adults, the adult leaders, have issues. One of the big ones that youth really pick up on is that the adults solve issues too quickly. That's a problem. And there's levels there where it's not good, especially for the youth. They need that opportunity, and it's taken away. And then the youth have the feeling that they're micromanaged, and that's not where you want to be. And that can create a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties. Now, with all four of those, the rule number one: don't try to solve everything immediately. First, take a moment just to take a breath. It will make everything so much better, especially if it's a situation not dealing with safety or safeguarding youth or any of that stuff. If you could take a breath, a pause, that's important. That alone will clear your mind for the very next step. And this is critical. After you've taken that breath, that break, listen. There's a big difference between listening and hearing. You want to hear all those words in your mind. That issue needs to be addressed. You need to pick up on that communications. That's the so important, is to really listen to it. Try to filter out any of the stuff that gives you an emotional response. Filter that out. Think hard about what is actually being spoken and receive it by listening. Critical skill. And the next big thing is to restate all of that. That's active listening. That's the big thing. You're restating exactly what they say, skipping out any emotional parts. You could take those out because that just escalates everything. But taking a breath, listening, and then restating what they said, that is so critical to being understood. They get the message that they've actually said something that you heard. That's the critical part. So on that conflict type of thing, that's the important part. Try to filter out any emotional triggers that might be in there. Try to filter that out. Try to put that aside. Okay? It might be just emotional issue that they're having. Now, when you're dealing with that conflict, if this is in the middle of a youth meeting, you need to say to the individual, let's put a pause on it, and we'll talk about it after the meeting. That's your big pause. That's your big breath, okay, just gotta do that. The last thing you want to do is have an argument or a disagreement in front of the youth, especially if it's with parents or adults or adult leaders or any of that stuff. You're an example, so put a pause on it. That's the best thing to do. Using the Scout law as your standard is critical in any conflict resolution, especially within your troop, pack, crew, ship, regardless. It's important to always think about things like, how can I be courteous to this person having an issue? That's part of the Scout law. How do we, as Scout leaders, handle this in a friendly way. Scout leaders asking themselves, how can I be kind in a manner that would resolve the issue? And this goes the other way. If you have a youth that is having a conflict, make sure that you ask them the same type of questions. Relate it back to the Scout Law. What parts of the Scout Law did not get looked at? Ask them that. That might be a big question. The Scout Law covers just about every conflict resolution. Youth leaders should solve youth problems and issues. When youth commonly go to the Scoutmaster or any of the Scout-facing team, they always say, talk to your patrol leader. That moves down. If it's a patrol leader coming to you with this, you go talk to your senior patrol leader. That is the common thing. You want to defer those issues, those questions, those problems should be referred back to the youth leadership where they have an opportunity to say something about it or do something about it. Know when to step in. And this is huge. A lot of adult leaders need to be reminded all the time that there's things that they're responsible to do. Step in immediately. The number one thing that we are all about, and that is safety. Safety is job one of all scouting leaders. Scout facing, behind the stage, all of it. They all have safety as the key. And at that point, that's the only time that should really be the adults working with the youth, making sure that they are safe. Adults need to step up if there's any kind of fighting or bullying going on. That needs to be handled by the trained staff, known as the scout-facing leaders, have gone through safeguarding youth, and they know what to do and how to handle that situation. Really critical that safety is the job of the adults. Everything else can be handled by the youth, but safety is critical. Handling parent conflicts. This can be problematic, but a lot of times it needs to be done away from the scouts. If you have a hallway outside of the youth meeting, that's great. You can go out there, take a deep breath, and listen. Think about the words that are being said. Take the emotions out of it, but just the words, the key words, and put those in your mind, and then repeat that back so you're actually hearing it. They know you're hearing because you're repeating back exactly what they said, minus all the emotions, okay, if there are. That's something that scout leaders need to be able to do. This helps with every conflict. And I know it's hard, but you have to fight the urge of getting upset yourself. Just take out that emotion when you're hearing those words that are just needling you, okay? They're just gonna set you off somehow. No, just take them and put them aside. Listen to the words. The emotions are there. That's important. Emotions are. But you need to hear the words. Otherwise, you'll never solve the situation. You'll never solve what's really wrong. The emotional part, you're never going to solve that. That's for them to work out, okay? Don't get caught up in that. Sometimes you just need to step back and explain how the scouting model works, how youth-led units work, how the youth take care of youth issues. The adults are there for safety, and for mentoring and coaching. So that's something that a lot of parents don't get right away, especially new parents. Over time, they will understand, but they have these issues and they need to talk to somebody. And being a scout leader, that's probably one of the hardest jobs is dealing with conflict resolution, dealing with problems, dealing with concerns. That is one of the hard jobs that adult leaders do. We do a lot for our kids, so always keep that in mind. This is a huge thing. Never argue in front of the scouts. This will lose the credibility of the adult leadership. It's important that you step away. Go handle it privately, okay? That's the important bit with adults. When adults are having a disagreement, an argument, an issue, that needs to be taken away or out of the eyesight, earshot of all the scouts. So important. You have to set the example. Be the cool head in the room that actually can work the issue instead of getting all emotional, okay? That needs to be taken out. You can, like they said in Apollo 13, you bounce off the walls and right back where you are. You got to handle the issue. That's the big thing. And the scouts don't need to see that issue because it's not necessarily your reaction or what you say. It might be what the other adult is saying. That's a problem. So arguments should be away from scouts' eyes and ears. Now we work with our scouts and our parents and our leaders, and we do such great jobs of keeping everybody involved and really helping the scouts succeed. We're building a better America, one scout at a time. And as long as we keep that focus and make sure that we actively listen and we think about the problem and we use the Scout Oath and Scout Law to kind of fix that problem, both parties will be happy and your unit will actually get stronger. It sounds amazing. If you have an issue and don't work on it, it makes the whole unit crumble. If you have an issue and you work on it and you come with a resolution that's based on the Scout Law, your unit will be 10 times stronger. It's Mom always said that scar tissue is stronger than your regular skin. So that's just the way, it happens, okay? So but keep up that good hard work, and I really appreciate watching these videos. That's a wonderful thing. And if you're interested, I do have a video about youth leaders going from being a youth leader into becoming an adult leader. And it happens. It does. And it's a wonderful transition, that process. So check out the video right there. And I will see you on the trail.